the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends. Starring that Jet A. Jerry O'Lace, Rocket J. Squirrel, and his pal, Bullwinkle the Moose.
Hi, glad to see you again.
Likewise.
We got some great things on the show today.
Like what? Like what?
Well, you ought to know, Bullwinkle. You're in some of them.
Well, let's get started.
Well, our boys are having a terrible time trying to destroy the guns of Abalone. For last time, you may recall, they were forced down on the Rock of Gibraltar and thrown into prison.
In the advertising game, this would be known as hard sell.
Not only hard, but seemingly escape-proof.
That sounded like the narrator's line, Rock.
Ingenuity and the fact that they couldn't spend an entire episode within four walls brought about a discovery of a secret passage.
Where do you suppose it leads?
Only one way to find out.
Ask somebody.
Nope. Follow me.
And the plucky little squirrel led the way. Unfortunately, he was plucky when he should have been lucky. The secret passage brought them before a firing squad.
Article 22 of the Gibraltar Constitution stipulates that all escapees must be dealt with severely.
Oh, please, sir, don't spank us.
Bullwinkle, they're going to shoot us.
Take away our good conduct medals, but don't spank us.
Did you hear me?
Reprimand us, if you will. Call us names.
They're going to shoot us.
How about that?
Elevate your weapons, men. Ready, aim.
Just a moment, Major.
Something wrong?
I thought it was customary for the condemned to be granted a last request.
Not according to our Constitution. Look for yourself.
And there on page 846 were the words, "No last request for condemned men."
How about condemned mooses and flying squirrels?
Oh, well, that was different.
Very well, you may have a last request. What is it?
Not to be shot.
The request had to be granted. Thus, Bullwinkle and Rocky were given pardons and put aboard the first boat leaving for Bayonne, New Jersey.
Is that anywhere near the island of Abalone?
It better be.
This gives us a splendid opportunity to revisit Abalone and see how things are progressing. Yes, Boris is still at it.
How long you going to keep up bombardment, Boris?
I told you until world gives to me Bullwinkle and Rocky. Keep sending message on shortwave.
I keep sending, but nobody sends back.
Try Morse code.
Samuel B. Morse?
Samuel B. LMA, I don't care.
Meanwhile, Rocky and Bullwinkle were having problems of their own.
I said let go of the wheel.
But, Captain, you just gotta make us stop at Abalone and let us off.
This is the Bayonne Express, boys. And you know what express means.
Some kind of Italian coffee, isn't it?
It was just about that time that a nasty group of clouds formed overhead.
Captain, the barometer's falling. Well, nail it back up.
Please, sir, won't you please put us off at Abalone?
Not now, Sonny. I don't like the way my ship is behaving.
The captain had ample reason for alarm. For the storm had suddenly increased to typhoon proportions, and the tiny vessel was buffeted about on the raging seas. By now, all hands were on deck, and even our heroes were garbed in sou'westers.
I wish I had a box of soda crackers tucked under my arm. I'd feel more secure.
I'd feel more secure with a different captain. I don't like the way he sticks his arm out the window every time he makes a left turn.
Engine room, can you hear me?
Aye, aye, Captain.
I need more steam to ride this squall out. More steam, you hear?
But, sir, it's hotter than Florida down here already.
Well, if you're hot, open a window.
Well, you don't open a porthole during a storm without suffering the consequences. The sea came in, and the fire went out.
Well, at least it's cooler.
I think our pace is slackened.
You're right. We're not going ahead anymore.
True, because they were now going down instead. Be with us next time for Seasick Bullwinkle or How Green Was My Moose.
wait till your mother sees what you've done to your new Sunday toga, Junior.
Well, don't blame it on me, Pop. Blame it on Skinny Flavius's dog.
Skinny Flavius's dog is only 6 weeks old.
But that briar patch in our backyard isn't.
Is that what tore your toga?
Uh-huh. The dog was chasing me, and I jumped over the fence without looking.
By overlooking the briar patch, you overlooked one of my most wisest sayings. Look before you leap.
Gosh, is that one of yours?
Yes, it is, and so is his fable. The country frog and the city frog. Once there was a frog, a poor country frog. His only possession was a small farm on which the only thing he could grow were gopher holes.
I got holes in my farm, holes in my shoes, and a hole in my head, or I wouldn't still be here.
That was the year the world discovered the game of golf.
4!
And as anyone can tell you, the object of the game is to put the ball in a hole. That was also the year there was a shortage of holes, but not on the frog's farm.
I'll give you 50,000 cash for 18 holes.
I'll make it 60,000.
The frog sold every gopher hole on his farm and overnight amassed a huge fortune.
I'm going to take me a roll of nickels, and I'm going to the big city. I'm going to have me a time.
And then he saw it. The Bijou Theater directly across the street. And on the marquee, the frog gets 50 beautiful dancing frogs. After purchasing a ticket, which incidentally was only a nickel, he took a seat in the very front row.
I have done died and gone to heaven.
One gorgeous creature in particular caught his fancy, the star of the show, Amphibian. Her performance so unnerved the simple frog that he began popping nickels into his mouth, thinking they were jelly beans. Amphibian had seen a lot of big spenders, but this looked like the biggest of them all.
By grannies, Miss Fabian, sure was neighborly of you to let me buy you this here expensive dinner.
I worship the bank you keep your money in, honey.
A mad courtship followed. Money was no object when it came to Amphibian. She spent nickels like they were pennies. There were nights at the opera, days at the races, and afternoons in the fur shop.
Buy me that Alaskan seal, would you, sweetheart?
How much is it?
Only 20,000 nickels.
Well, that sounds reasonable.
Needless to say, it wasn't long before the frog was down to his last nickel.
What are we going to do tonight, Frog, honey?
Well, I thought we'd go somewhere and make a phone call. Talk to the operator, things like that.
Let's get something straight, big boy. If you want me to be your honey, you gotta spend lots of money.
Well, in that case, you wait right here, you hear?
In an effort to raise money fast, he took the first job to come along, which happened to be in a circus.
Only thing we need right now is a high diver.
Tell me what to do.
You see that 5,000-foot platform? Dive off of that into this bucket.
Ain't that a mite dangerous?
Yeah, but it pays good.
Willing to risk anything, the frog ascended the ladder and poised athletically at the edge of the platform.
Ain't exactly leap year, but here goes.
The little frog jumped out into space and plunged like a rocket toward the bucket far below. But as luck would have it, the weather suddenly changed. A cold snap set in, and the water in the bucket froze solid. Well, there's nothing new about a frog diving into a bucket of ice, so he was fired.
What in the blue-eyed world am I gonna do? If I don't find me some money, I'll...
And then he saw it. In the gutter was a nickel.
Maybe my luck has changed.
He put the nickel in a weighing machine, and instead of a fortune, 2 nickels came out. Flushed with his newfound wealth, he dashed into a phone booth to call Amphibian. But instead of getting her number, 3 nickels fell out. On a bus that would take him to Anne's apartment. He dropped the 3 nickels into the coin receiver, and out came a transfer. He was as broke as ever.
Annie, honey, I'm Nicholas.
I don't care what your front name is, honey. I got news. Your broker sold the last of your gopher holes. Here's 10,000 nickels.
Hot Ziggy, let's us go make a long-distance phone call.
Oh, no, you don't. This wouldn't last me a fortnight. You're going to enter a frog jumping contest and will win a fortune.
But, Anna, baby, I can't jump.
You won't have to, Green Eyes. We'll bet on another frog.
And so on the day of the jumping contest, the little frog took his place on the starting line.
Now remember, love, don't jump a foot. You'll lose and we'll win.
He had to make it look good, so he took a few steps back to get set for a false effort. But not looking where he was going, he backed into a bush on which sat a bee. And the frog took off on the longest jump ever recorded by man. He won the contest, but he lost his money and Amphibian. So you see, Junior, look before you leap.
I got a better one, Pop.
Don't you always? All right, let's have it.
Once bitten, twice spry.
No, go play in the briar patch, son.
open mind and a hole in his head to prove it, Mr. Know-It-All.
Today's lecture is how to be an archaeologist and dig ancient history. The archaeologist must have a thorough knowledge of his subject, which is, archaeology. I have even gone so far as to read a book on it. To practice archaeology, we must travel to places which are famous for old relics, such as Pasadena or even Egypt. Excuse me, are you Abdul Ben Boris?
I ain't Rudolph Valentino, kid.
I want to go to the pyramid. How much will it cost?
Ah, the Pyramid Club. Well, there's $20 cover charge and $30 minimum. Of course, if you want dinner, is more.
Not the Pyramid Club. I want to go to the actual pyramids.
What for? There's no action there. Is a drag.
I don't care. How much?
Well, regular $40, for you $50.
That sounds reasonable. The walls inside these pyramids are covered with ancient hieroglyphics.
With a little elbow grease, we can clean them off.
Here's an interesting specimen. Let's see how my hieroglyphic English dictionary translates it. Pharaoh loves Zelda. That's sweet. Here we are in the main burial chamber. You will note the interesting form...
Okay, boys, bring stuff in. Put popcorn machine there, hot dog stand there.
Hey, what is this?
This is new attraction. Pyramid Land. Come on, boys, the tourists are waiting.
Well, thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
You're welcome.
Hello again, Peabody here. Sherman, what does the word Sphinx make you think of?
Skunk?
Oh, dear. Never mind. Today we are going to Egypt to witness the true story behind the building of the first Great Pyramid. Getting right down to the business at hand, I instructed Sherman to set the wayback for the year 3000 BC, and the place, Giza, on the border of the Libyan desert. Needless to say, the wayback responded beautifully, slammed into high gear, and in less than an instant, we were standing inside the palace of Cheops, second king of the 4th dynasty. However, it appeared as though we had arrived at a rather bad time.
By the beard of the sacred flamingo, I won't have it.
I beg your pardon, Your Highness, but what seems to be the trouble?
My mustache. That is what's the trouble.
Mustache? But you don't have a mustache.
I do over there.
He directed our eyes to a huge painting of himself on the far side of the room that covered the entire wall. Sure enough, it had a large black mustache on it.
It took 300 slaves 2 years to paint that magnificent picture of me. Then he comes along and puts a mustache on it.
And whom, might I ask, is he?
The evil Prince Ahmed Fez.
Is he your arch enemy?
Yes, and he is also just 5 years old. If he wasn't my nephew, I'd...
His words were cut short by a large pimento cream pie full in the face. This little beast, I take it, is Prince Ahmed Fez?
The third.
Gosh, you mean there were 2 more like him? Ouch!
Ooh, that Ahmed. I'll feed him to the camels. I'll...
Sire, you must remember he's only a child.
Perhaps nothing. This time I will build a swimming pool shaped like King Farouk. It will be the biggest swimming pool in the world. I'd like to see him wreck that.
He can't paint a mustache on it either. But poor Cheops is still on the wrong track, Mr. Peabody.
Construction began immediately, and in what even I consider record time, the pool was completed.
It's done. This pool will go down in history as a great wonder of the world.
I'm sorry, sire, but I'm afraid it's about to go up in the air as another failure. It seemed as if dear little Prince Ahmed had obtained some gunpowder on a recent trip to China, and this gave me a brilliant idea.
It's no use. I give up.
No need for that, sire. I have a plan.
Mr. Peabody always has a plan, Your Highness. Why, one time he...
Never mind, Sherman. I'll give him an autographed copy of my memoirs before we leave. I took a pencil and some papyrus and quickly drew some very complicated plans.
What is this?
It is the monument you are going to build to yourself, a pyramid.
Pyramid? Say, I like this idea. But what about Prince Ahmed?
You leave him to me. Just make certain the pyramid is constructed exactly as I have indicated. Every slave in the kingdom was called to the task. Huge stones were quarried, shaved to the precise size, and rolled into position. 40 days and 30 nights later, the project was complete.
Beautiful. Wonderful.
Mr. Peabody, I never thought I'd live to see the day.
What day is that, Sherman?
The day you would make a mistake. Look, you designed the pyramid upside down. It's standing on its point.
I'm surprised at you, Sherman. That is the most perfectly precogitated part of my plan. Remember, Ahmed the Terrible is still lurking about with his gunpowder and... there he is now, right on schedule. Inasmuch as I had designed the monument with this in mind, the pyramid was not damaged a bit. It simply flew into the air, turned over 3.5 times, and then settled to earth in its proper position.
Perfect. Oh, Mr. Peabody, can you ever forgive me for doubting your velocity?
I suppose so, Sherman, but that is veracity. At this point, the problem was solved. The world now had one of its 7 wonders.
What about Prince Ahmed? Won't he cause more trouble?
Not when you consider the pyramid is 481 feet high, and there is a fine, spanking breeze at the top. You see, Sherman, I managed to get to the seat of most any problem.
Gee, it was sure nice of King Cheops to invite us to dinner, Mr. Peabody. Yum. This is delicious. I wonder what it is.
It's just something else His Highness is famous for. In fact, this particular dish was named after him.
You don't mean...
That's right, Sherman. Lamb Cheops.
What a fiendish way to get revenge.
I don't want revenge. I want Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Little does Boris know that Rocky and Bullwinkle have volunteered to silence the guns of Abalone. Unfortunately, they have run into a number of obstacles, among them a storm at sea, which has caused their ship to begin sinking right under their feet.
Where else?
Quick, we gotta tell the captain to abandon ship.
Well, you can look it up in the almanac. You'll see that that particular storm lasted 14 days. And when it cleared, the good ship Lollipop was no longer afloat. But one of her longboats was, crammed with passengers and crew.
Engine room, why don't you answer?
Maybe they went out to lunch.
Captain, the men from the engine room are right here in this rowboat. Your ship sank.
And it looked as if this one would too, for suddenly out of nowhere, huge shells came screaming by.
It must be the guns of Abalone.
They shouldn't let those fish have guns.
Bullwinkle, we may have a chance to carry out our mission.
Yeah.
Under Rocky's able command, the longboat pushed through the water until eventually it came to rest on the sands of the island of Abalone.
Okay, now I need an alarm clock and a few sticks of TNT.
Luckily, one of the crew members had salvaged those very items before the ship went down. It didn't take the nimble squirrel long to fashion a time bomb.
You fellers wait right here while Rock and I go blow up the cannons.
What right have you got to give orders?
It's my show.
Oh.
Through nook and crannies, over Smith and Dales, they crept and crawled, inching their way even closer to the site where the gigantic guns stood.
But Boris, darling, is getting Moose and Squirrel worth blowing up world bit by bit.
I will not dignify the question with an answer, Natasha. Load the cannon.
Bullwinkle, I think I've heard that voice before.
Wouldn't be H.V. Kaltenborn, would it?
Stand back, Natasha. I'm going to shoot all 5 cannons at once.
But Boris, honey, baby, you will blow up everything.
So what? Moose and Squirrel has not showed up. I got nothing to live for.
I beg to differ with you, but Moose and Squirrel has showed up. In fact, we've been showed up quite a few times.
It's them, the blight of my life. Hand me my pistol.
No got pistol, Boris. All we got is these big cannons.
That's good enough. Help me aim.
Throw the time bomb, Bullwinkle.
What time bomb, Rock?
The one I made.
Oh, that one. Where'd I put that thing?
While Bullwinkle searched, the guns of Abalone were lowered into firing position.
Maybe you dropped it somewhere.
And just as Bullwinkle leaned over to look for the bomb, fire! Unfortunately for Boris, he had aimed all 5 cannons right at each other. The guns were completely destroyed. Boris and Natasha were transported to the proper authorities and received severe reprimands for their behavior, also 20 years each. As for Bullwinkle and Rocky, exhausted after their trying ordeal, they returned home and immediately went to bed.
Oh, boy, I could sleep for a week.
Me too.
Say, did you ever find the time bomb?
What time bomb?
never mind. Set the clock for 7 tomorrow morning.
I already did.
Fellas, I think it's only fair to warn you that the time bomb is on the table ticking away.
Doesn't matter.
Well, why not?
That clock always runs slow.
Well, yes, but oh, never mind. Be with us again next time for a different adventure. Maybe with 2 different stars. Run slow.
Well, I guess that about wraps up another Rocky show.
Certainly hope you enjoyed it. I did. I always say.
Bullwinkle, time for us to go.
Already? Okay, but first, here are some of the people who made this show impossible.
That's not all.
The fingers get tired. Oop! Got away from me again.
Well, see you next time. Ready, Bullwinkle? Alley!
Oop!